Think you need modern hybrid seeds and constant irrigation to feed yourself from your garden? Think again. There are 5 extraordinary plants that fed entire civilizations for millennia. Plants so resilient, so productive, and so nutritionally dense that they sustained empires. Yet most of them have vanished from cultivation or remain virtually unknown to modern gardeners. These forgotten champions don't just tolerate difficult conditions. They actually thrive where conventional crops fail. After years of researching ancient food systems and traditional growing methods from cultures around the world, I've discovered these lost crops often outperform their modern counterparts in resilience, nutrition, and sheer survival power. Today we're exploring 5 plants that deserve an urgent comeback in your garden. Stick around because number 3 grows in places no vegetable should survive, and that insight at the end will completely change how you think about food security. Let's dive into our first lost superfood. 1. Silphium. Silphium might be the most tragic loss in all of agricultural history. This remarkable plant was so valuable to the ancient Greeks and Romans that it appeared on currency was worth its weight in silver and may have been harvested to extinction by the 1st century AD. We'll never know its exact identity with certainty, but historical descriptions suggest it was likely a species of giant fennel that grew wild in ancient Cyrenaica, modern-day Libya. Here's what makes the Silphium story absolutely fascinating for modern gardeners. Ancient texts describe this plant as extraordinarily versatile. Every part was useful. The roots, stems, leaves, and resinous sap were all harvested for different purposes. The plant was prized as a seasoning that transformed ordinary food into delicacies, as a medicine for dozens of ailments, and possibly as a form of birth control. What's remarkable from a cultivation perspective is that Silphium, apparently, thrived in the harsh, arid conditions of North Africa with zero cultivation. The plant grew wild on rocky hillsides with minimal rainfall, yet produced abundant harvests year after year. Ancient accounts suggest it was extraordinarily drought-tolerant and required poor, lean soil to flourish. Attempts to cultivate it in rich soil reportedly failed. The plant grew as a massive perennial, with thick taproots that could be several feet long and stems reaching 6 to 8 feet tall. The leaves were described as similar to celery or parsley, and the plant produced large umbels of yellow flowers that eventually gave way to distinctive heart-shaped seeds. These seeds became a symbol of love and appear in ancient art and poetry. The resinous sap, called laser or laserpicium, was the most prized product. Harvesters would cut the stems and roots to extract this golden liquid, which had an intensely pungent, garlicky aroma. Just a small amount could flavor entire dishes, and it was considered superior to garlic or asafoetida for culinary purposes. From a modern perspective, the Silphium tragedy teaches us crucial lessons about sustainability and plant conservation. Here was a crop so valuable it literally became currency, yet we harvested it to extinction because we never learned to cultivate it properly. The plant apparently required specific conditions, lean soil, minimal water, and perhaps certain soil microbes or mycorrhizal relationships that we didn't understand. Some researchers believe close relatives of Silphium might still exist in the mountains of Turkey, Iran, or North Africa. Plants like Ferula drudeana or other giant fennels share many characteristics described in ancient texts. These plants are extraordinarily drought-tolerant, thriving in rocky, poor soils with minimal rainfall. They develop massive taproots that can reach 10 feet or more into the earth, accessing moisture unavailable to conventional crops. If you're in zones 7 through 10 with dry, rocky soil, consider growing giant fennel species as a Silphium analog. Plant seeds in fall or divide roots in early spring. These plants require full sun, excellent drainage, and lean soil. Fertilization actually reduces the pungent essential oils that make them valuable. Once established, they require virtually no water beyond natural rainfall in most regions. The plants take several years to reach maturity, but then produce for decades. You can harvest young shoots in spring as a vegetable, collect leaves throughout the growing season for flavoring, and extract resin from roots and stems. The seeds are also edible and aromatic, similar to fennel seeds, but more pungent. This is a crop that connects you to ancient food traditions while providing resilient, low-maintenance harvests in difficult conditions. The Silphium story reminds us that some of our most valuable crops might be the ones we've lost, and that rediscovering them could be crucial for future food security. 2. Ensete, Ventricosum Ensete ventricosum, commonly called false banana or Ethiopian banana, is one of Africa's most important food crops and possibly the most underappreciated staple on Earth. This remarkable plant has sustained millions of people in Ethiopia and neighboring regions for thousands of years, yet it remains virtually unknown outside Africa. This is a massive oversight, because Ensete might be one of the most productive, drought-resistant, and famine-proof crops humans have ever cultivated. The plant looks like a banana tree, growing 20 to 30 feet tall with massive paddle-shaped leaves that can be 10 to 15 feet long. But unlike true bananas, Ensete is grown for its starchy pseudostem and underground corm, not for fruit. The entire plant is edible after proper processing, and a single mature plant can provide 40 to 80 pounds of food. What makes Ensete absolutely extraordinary for food security is its remarkable resilience and storage characteristics. The plant thrives in challenging conditions. It tolerates poor soils, grows well in marginal land, and produces heavily even during drought years when other crops fail. Ensete has deep, extensive roots that access moisture from deep soil layers, allowing it to survive extended dry periods. But here's the truly revolutionary aspect that makes Ensete a famine fighter. The plant can be harvested at any time over a window of several years. Unlike annual crops that must be harvested at specific times or lost, Ensete can be left growing in the field as a living food reserve. When food is needed, farmers harvest plants selectively. During good years, they leave plants to grow larger. During droughts or famines, they harvest as needed. This flexibility is unprecedented among staple crops. Imagine having a field of food that doesn't require replanting every year, that grows larger and more valuable over time, and that you can harvest whenever necessary. This is exactly what Ensete provides, and it's sustained Ethiopian communities through countless droughts and famines. Ensete plants take 3 to 5 years to reach maturity, though they can be harvested earlier for smaller yields. During this time, they require minimal care. The plants tolerate partial shade, though they produce more heavily in full sun. They grow in rainfall zones from 40 to 80 inches annually, but survive with significantly less through their deep root systems. For zones 9 through 11, Ensete offers an opportunity to grow a truly resilient staple crop. Plant suckers or divisions from mature plants, spacing them 10 to 15 feet apart. The plants establish quickly and begin growing vigorously in warm weather. Young plants benefit from regular watering, but mature plants become quite drought-tolerant. When ready to harvest, the entire plant is cut down. The processing is labor-intensive but straightforward. The outer layers of the pseudostem are peeled away to reveal the tender inner core. This core, along with the underground corm, is scraped to extract starchy pulp. This pulp is then fermented for several months, which breaks down harmful compounds and creates a product called kocho. Kocho has a tangy, slightly sour flavor and can be formed into flatbreads or cooked as porridge. It stores for months or even years without refrigeration, providing food security long after harvest. The fermentation process also increases nutritional value and digestibility. The nutrition profile is substantial. Ensete provides complex carbohydrates, fiber and moderate amounts of vitamins and minerals. It's particularly rich in potassium. While not as protein-rich as legumes, it provides excellent sustained energy and forms the foundation of the diet for millions of people. A mature plant produces enough food to feed a person for several weeks. A small grove can provide food security for a family for an entire year. The plants also provide valuable ecosystem services. Their massive leaves create deep mulch. Their roots prevent erosion on slopes, and they can be intercropped with other plants. This is a crop that deserves much wider recognition and cultivation. In a world facing climate uncertainty and food insecurity, Ensete represents a proven solution that sustained civilizations through the worst conditions imaginable. 3. Typha cattail is possibly the most underrated survival food on the planet. This cosmopolitan plant grows wild on every continent except Antarctica and has been used as food by indigenous peoples worldwide for thousands of years. Yet modern gardeners completely overlook it, treating cattails as weeds rather than recognizing them as one of the most productive, resilient, and versatile crops available. Here's what makes cattails absolutely revolutionary for self-sufficient gardening. Virtually every part of the plant is edible at different times of year. The plant produces in conditions that would kill conventional vegetables, and a single cattail patch can yield thousands of pounds of food annually with zero maintenance. Cattails thrive in wetlands, marshes, pond edges, and waterlogged soils where most crops drown. They actually prefer standing water and can grow in conditions ranging from saturated mud to water several feet deep. This makes them perfect for areas too wet for conventional agriculture. Those low spots in your property that stay soggy, that ditch that never drains, that pond edge you can't mow. The plants grow 5 to 10 feet tall with distinctive cylindrical brown seed heads that everyone recognizes. But what most people don't know is that cattails are extraordinarily productive food plants with multiple harvests throughout the year. In early spring, you can harvest the young shoots when they're 6 to 12 inches tall. These shoots are crisp, mild, and delicious raw or cooked, tasting similar to cucumbers with a hint of nuttiness. Simply peel away the outer layers to reveal the tender white core. These shoots are sometimes called cossack, asparagus, and are considered a delicacy in many cultures. As plants mature, the immature flower, spikes, become available in late spring. These spikes, before they develop the familiar brown appearance, are bright green and packed with pollen-producing flowers. You can harvest and cook them like corn on the cob, boil or steam them and eat them with butter. They have a pleasant, corn-like flavor and texture. In early summer, the same flower spikes produce massive amounts of golden pollen. A single seed head can produce several tablespoons of pollen, and a small cattail patch can yield pounds. This pollen is extraordinarily nutritious, higher in protein than most grains and rich in vitamins and minerals. It can be mixed with flour for baking, added to smoothies, or used as a protein supplement. Throughout the growing season, you can harvest the thick rhizomes that spread horizontally through the mud. These rhizomes are packed with starch and can be processed into flour. Wash them thoroughly, peel away the outer layer, and crush them in water. The starch settles out, and after drying, you have a fine white flour, comparable to cornstarch or arrowroot. The core of mature stems can also be harvested and eaten. Peel away the outer layers to access the tender white inner core, which can be eaten raw or cooked. This provides food even in late summer and fall, when other parts are past their prime. What's remarkable is that cattails produce all this food with zero inputs. You don't plant them, fertilize them, water them, or weed around them. They grow themselves in conditions where nothing else will grow. A 10 by 10 foot cattail patch can produce enough shoots, pollen, and rhizome flour to supplement your diet significantly. Cattails also provide valuable ecosystem services. The plants filter water, removing pollutants and excess nutrients. The dense growth provides habitat for beneficial insects, birds, and amphibians. The dead stalks can be harvested for weaving, thatching, or mulch. For zones 3 through 11, cattails offer an opportunity to turn unusable wet ground into productive food systems. Establish them by transplanting rhizomes from existing stands or by purchasing plants. Once established, they spread aggressively, so contain them if necessary by planting in buried containers or ponds with defined edges. The plants are remarkably pest and disease resistant and tolerate both drought, once established in pond margins, and flooding. They continue producing year after year with no care whatsoever. This is true permaculture, a crop that maintains itself while providing abundant harvests. 4. Apios americana. Apios americana, commonly called groundnut or potato bean, is North America's forgotten superfood. This native perennial vine sustained indigenous peoples for thousands of years and was so valuable that early European colonists survived their first winters by harvesting it from Native American gardens. The Pilgrims literally survived on groundnuts. Yet today, this extraordinary crop has nearly vanished from cultivation. This is agricultural amnesia at its worst because groundnut combines the productivity of potatoes with the protein content of beans in a single plant that thrives with zero maintenance. The plant produces both edible tubers underground and edible beans above ground, making it one of the most nutritionally complete crops available. The vine is delicate and attractive, growing 6 to 10 feet with compound leaves and clusters of fragrant maroon-brown flowers that smell like cinnamon and roses. The flowers attract pollinators and are beautiful enough to grow ornamentally, but the real treasure lies underground. Groundnut produces chains of small tubers along its rhizomes, looking like beads on a string. Each tuber is roughly 1 to 3 inches in diameter, though some can grow larger with good conditions. A single plant can produce a pound or more of tubers, and an established patch produces continuously for decades. What makes groundnut absolutely exceptional is its extraordinary nutrition. The tubers contain 3 times more protein than potatoes, roughly 15 to 20% protein by dry weight. This is comparable to meat or beans and unprecedented for a root crop. The tubers are also rich in iron, calcium, and other minerals. The taste is distinctive and delicious, slightly nutty with a flavor somewhere between potatoes and turnips, with a hint of sweetness. The texture is drier than potatoes but becomes creamy when cooked. They can be boiled, roasted, fried, or mashed just like potatoes, but with far superior nutrition. The beans are also edible and highly nutritious, though they're produced less reliably than the tubers. When available, they can be cooked like any bean and have a pleasant, mild flavor. From a cultivation perspective, groundnut is almost ridiculously easy. Plant tubers 2 to 3 inches deep and 12 inches apart in spring. The plants prefer moist, rich soil, but tolerate a wide range of conditions. They grow well in partial shade to full sun and actually thrive in areas too wet for potatoes. Once established, groundnut requires zero care. The plants are native to North American forests and wetlands, growing wild from Canada to Florida. They tolerate flooding, drought, once established, poor soil, and neglect. They're completely pest and disease resistant. I've never seen insect damage or disease on groundnut plants. The vines are nitrogen-fixing legumes that actually improve your soil while producing food. They spread gradually through underground rhizomes, forming larger patches each year. Unlike potatoes, you don't need to dig up and replant annually. The tubers overwinter in the ground, and the plants regrow each spring. Harvest tubers in fall after the vines have died back, or in early spring before new growth begins. You can harvest selectively, taking larger tubers while leaving smaller ones to grow. This allows continuous production without replanting. For zones 3 through 9, groundnut offers an opportunity to grow a perennial staple crop that requires absolutely no maintenance. A small patch can produce dozens of pounds of high-protein tubers year after year. This is a true survival crop that sustained peoples through harsh winters and should be in every resilient garden. 5. Chenopodium berlandieri. Chenopodium berlandieri, called Pitseed Goosefoot or Horizontal, was one of the most important crops of pre-Columbian North America. This native grain was domesticated independently in eastern North America over 4,000 years ago and formed a crucial part of the agricultural complex that sustained major civilizations. Archaeologists have found it stored in massive quantities in ancient settlements, evidence of its importance as a staple food. Then it vanished. When European crops arrived, this nutritious, productive, climate-adapted grain was abandoned and nearly forgotten. Today, most gardeners have never heard of it, despite it being arguably more nutritious than quinoa and far better adapted to North American growing conditions. Here's what makes Chenopodium berlandieri absolutely remarkable. It's a warm season annual that produces grain yields comparable to cultivated crops while growing like a weed. The plant thrives in heat, tolerates drought, grows in poor soils, requires zero fertilizer, and is completely pest-resistant. It's basically an indestructible grain crop that produces highly nutritious seeds. The plant grows 3 to 6 feet tall with triangular, serrated leaves that are often tinged with red or purple. The seed heads form in dense clusters at the top of the plant and along the branches, eventually turning golden brown when mature. A single plant can produce a cup or more of grain, and a small row can yield several pounds. The seeds are tiny, similar to quinoa, and have a mild, nutty flavor. The nutrition profile is outstanding, higher in protein than wheat or corn, rich in all essential amino acids, making it a complete protein, and packed with iron, calcium, magnesium, and B vitamins. The protein quality rivals that of quinoa and amaranth. What's fascinating is that domesticated varieties developed distinctly different seeds from their wild ancestors. The seeds are larger, have thinner seed coats, and remain on the plant when ripe rather than shattering and falling to the ground. This makes harvesting much easier and is clear evidence of deliberate selection by ancient farmers. For growing in zones 4 through 10, Pitseed Goosefoot is remarkably easy. Plant seeds in spring after soil warms to at least 60 degrees Celsius. The seeds are tiny, so mix them with sand for easier distribution. Scatter thinly and barely cover with soil. Thin seedlings to 12 to 18 inches apart once established. The plants grow rapidly in warm weather and require minimal care. They actually prefer lean soil. Too much nitrogen causes excessive leafy growth at the expense of seed production. They tolerate drought well once established and continue growing vigorously even during hot, dry weather that stresses other crops. The young leaves are also edible and highly nutritious, similar to spinach or lamb's quarters. You can harvest leaves when plants are young without significantly impacting grain production. The leaves are rich in vitamins and minerals and can be used fresh or cooked. Seed heads mature in late summer to early fall, turning from green to golden brown. When the seeds fall freely when you rub the heads, they're ready to harvest. Cut entire plants and hang them upside down over a sheet or bucket. The seeds will drop as they dry. After drying, thresh by rubbing the seed heads vigorously or stepping on them inside a bag. Winnow to remove chaff by pouring from one container to another in a breeze, allowing the lighter chaff to blow away. The grain can be cooked like quinoa or rice, ground into flour for baking, or popped like amaranth. It has a mild, slightly nutty flavor that works well in both sweet and savory dishes. The flour is excellent for gluten-free baking and adds nutrition to breads and pancakes. This is a crop that sustained major civilizations and deserves rediscovery. In a time of climate uncertainty and industrial agriculture's vulnerabilities, these ancient grains that thrived in North America for millennia offer resilient alternatives that require minimal inputs while providing superior nutrition. If you found these forgotten crops as fascinating as I do and want to start growing your own resilient, low-maintenance food forest, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to The Food They Erased. We're diving deep into heritage varieties, permaculture techniques, and climate-adapted growing methods that actually work in the real world. Don't miss out on future videos where we'll explore more lost crops, traditional growing wisdom, and practical skills for building true food security. Click subscribe, turn on notifications, and let's rediscover the agricultural treasures our ancestors knew, but we've somehow forgotten. See you in the next one.